We're all good. Take a seat for me. Yeah, we're all good. We're all good.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
If it turns off, we'll have no idea. We'll just we'll have no idea.
Engineering is best right there.
Alright. So again, we left off with, but we're still talking on critics, so the external critic. The cause of a lot of conflict I've seen, personally, things like that, in some of our households is that like there isn't the understanding, like Malou was saying, there's different people learn differently, and it seemed like, you know, the academics is what is held up here in our community, but then if you look at our parents, why it's held up here is that, you know, where it was always for them, education was how you get yourself out of poverty. Education and things, that's what was taught. Okay, right? And
do you think it's also because the education route just has more results? 'Cause like you can visually see that like doctors are getting paid this type of income and blah 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 blah. We all see doctors, so
yeah. So in that time, to an extent, yes, I think so. Is that the for example, if you lived in the village and things like that, the most educated person was the one, you know, Rajipi was the one that, you know, drove the cars, was the one that is the leader of the community, was the one that could, right? Mm. And so everyone aspired to be like that. But for our generation, it's a little bit different because the image of success for us is different now, okay? The NBA players, the soccer players, the rappers, these are the ones that are in front of us as image of success, okay? Whereas a doctor, you get to become a doctor, you're 9 to 5, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants, for our generation, nobody wants that. We want freedom, we want to be able to do what we want and things like that, right? And so, if you look at most kids now, most grown up, is they aspire not to be doctors, not to be lawyers, that's corny. Who want to be, you know, I want to be a rapper, I want to be a superstar, I want to be a soccer player, I want to be a basketball player. Because that's what's in front of us, that's our image. You know, the music videos, the cars, the jewelry, the things like that. So, it's like different things have been idolized in two different generations, and now it's like it's a bit of a clash. This is how I've seen it, you know, and so I guess you mentioned before, Malil, that you had to come to a certain part in your maturity and development to be able to see and say, hey, you know. But there was a lot of conflict there initially. How would we? Is there a better way for someone else if you were to put in that shoe again, for you to deal with that situation where maybe your parents or those around you don't understand your career choice or your choices? Reflecting back, is there a better way that you could have dealt with it better to avoid conflict?
100%. I think a lot of aspects for our community especially is unfortunate. I feel like there's a lack of male guidance or role models or any mentorship or anything in our community particularly. So I feel like looking back, I don't think I can blame myself for a lot of mistakes I made, because a lot of the mistakes I made came from a place where a certain, I guess, authority or whatever was missing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But looking back, I don't think I would change anything, but what I would look back is it comes back to maturity, being certain of things, of choices you make. Because when you're young, it's hard. I feel like it's hard for teenagers and kids to look ahead. You know what I mean? Tomorrow it's a crazy concept for a young person.
Right.
Like, what's the point of planning at that age? So
yeah.
I feel like organization is the overall thing that I would implement.
Right. Okay. What about? Is there any critic from your peers, friendship groups, pressure, peer pressure. Peer pressure is a form of critique. It can be a form of critique as well. Is there any maybe in your development that maybe you had to walk away from certain friendship groups to pursue what you want? Anything like that?
I think from a healthy standpoint, just like because I know I was always surrounded by a lot of people who just like had clear direction but weren't, didn't have a plan. And so like finally being surrounded by people who know what they want, they know the necessary steps they have to take, that in itself became like, I guess like pressured me myself to be like, okay, look, my peers are doing this and doing that. I need to step up to the plate because this is what we're doing.
Right.
Even though our directions might be different,
Yeah.
the
Right.
drive is all the same. It stems from the same spot,
Right.
place.
Right.
But yeah, for me, there was definitely a lot of shedding of friendships.
Yeah.
Because, of course, people will understand why wouldn't you want to come out and be social because you want to make some music.
Mhm.
I can see how that to a certain peer group makes sense. Like
You're a weirdo, right?
exactly.
you wanna just be in your room making music.
100%. I get that.
Right. Yeah.
And even though they don't mean it, that is negative energy that I don't want influencing me. So
Yeah.
there has been a lot of.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And again, it sounds from what I'm hearing from both of you is just having a clear direction allows you to develop the strength to be like, whatever. What I mean? I'm doing me, sort of thing.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what about the internal critic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, what about I don't know. Most people, the doubt is a big thing. If you're pursuing something for a long period of time, and unfortunately in the industry that you both are in, it's almost sometimes a patient game, and things like that. And so things like doubt, the internal critic, like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Like, is this good enough? All those kind of things. And this is conversations we have with ourselves internally, that we all have, if we're honest with ourselves. So, I guess maybe Q, let's go first. Do you have any, is that something you've experienced? And then, how do you deal with the internal critic?
I think earlier on, it was definitely, like, I still have moments where I doubt my work and just the way I'm going about things. But I think earlier on, it may have been a lot more harsher. I wasn't really sure. And so when I found a clear direction and I was certain of what I was doing, those doubts sort of like began to dissipate, and also understanding with time you will develop. Everybody gets better with time, and realizing that, like, the content you do have isn't being realistic and being like, okay, not everybody is going to fuck with my shit, period. And that's always going to be a thing, regardless of what level you're at. And being secure with that, being like, all right, cool. If I put this out, if they don't like it, they don't like it. But I've expressed everything I need to do.
Right.
And those are usually, like, my doubts stem from a place of, like, have I expressed everything completely? Is this everything that I have to say on this subject matter?
Right.
And not necessarily on the content or whether people will like it anymore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I see. So satisfy yourself.
Yeah.
Make sure you're happy with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yourself?
I think yeah. The internal critic, I think that's the biggest demon, because it's what I want to say so many things about it, but I think the main point to emphasize for me is that as a kid, I think as children you always look up to your authority, or your parents, or whoever's around you, and you think you think they understand life and they know everything, and when you grow up, you're gonna understand life, and you're gonna be this being that knows it all. But I think coming into adulthood, you realize that everyone's just like, no one really knows what's going on.
Everyone's figuring it out.
Everyone's definitely figuring it out.
It's about who could put on the best face.
100%. But I also think the other point to that, I think another part is the responsibility. I feel like the more responsibility you take as a person, regardless of whatever field that is, the more these doubts or whatever not go away, but the less there is of it, because it's gonna, no matter what point in life you're at, there's always gonna be life is not like clear, so there's always gonna be indecision in your head. But I think the more responsibility you take as a person, the less indecision there is, because the more you have to cater on to. And when you realize that you can do things, you can take on a certain amount of responsibility, you realize you want to take on more and more and more. And I feel like that in turn.
Yeah, because I mean, doubt and indecision and fear are some of the things internally that stop you from action.
Yes.
Right. And so.
And that's why I bring up responsibility, because that's what it is to me.
It'll take you from action. I think what you were saying before, you might have been around people that had good ideas, things like that, but no plan.
No plans.
Yeah. And one of the things that does stifle movement, direction, so making progress regardless, is the internal, the doubt, the fear. Should I make this move? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna just wait, right? And things like that. And insecurity, like you said, insecurity is a big part of that. People's reception of whatever it is that you're doing, your plans, will it work out? Will it not work out? What if you fail? And things like that. So those are internal sort of critiques or things that come up in the path to success that are really hard to sort of try and sort of overcome. So you mentioned being a slave to the critic in your song, the song critic.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that?
I feel like you're saying, a lot of that song reflects on what we're talking about. A lot of that song faces internal critique and outside external critique, and I feel like I'm very reflective of myself, and I noticed that when I was younger, someone's critique of me could make me change who I am to fit that mold of who they think I am, and then in turn I see that as you're a slave to someone's critique. Like I'm sure we all experience this at school, when someone plays you as a token black kid and you're like, you should act like this, and in turn, maybe I should act like that, then you're no longer being jailed. I mean, you're no longer being yourself, and you're kind of like a slave to that person's critique. Yeah. But I think it also applies to all points of life. I feel like you need to be secure with who you are, so you can, because there's always going to be critique. But if you're secure in your core, then no one can stifle you or change who you are as a person. I think that's important to understand.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to get persuaded by other people.
Yeah.
Very.
It's easier said than done, is it? Because
100%.
How do you become secure? How does one become secure? In themselves, like in this world where it's a natural thing, you want approval, from your peers. You want some of these natural things that people want as human beings, and so sometimes you stifle yourself a little bit to get approval or to fit in into things like that.
I think for me, what happened when I was like 16, 17, but I think I came to the realization that no one cares about me, and not in like a bad way, but I think once you understand that people don't see you the way you see yourself in your head, then you realize that people don't care about all the little things that you're worried about, and once you have that solidified in your head, it makes you more secure as a person to do what you want, knowing that as long as you're not being disrespectful to someone else or intentionally trying to harm someone, no not that no one cares about the decisions you make, but no one's sitting there judging you and writing everything you do down. I feel like a lot of kids feel that pressure that like every move they take is being heavily scrutinized or critiqued. But when you realize that like, as long as you're being true to something, like people are happy. As long as people see that you're being serious in what you're doing in life, I don't think anyone can really.
Yeah. Okay.
And also setting goals,
Right.
planning ahead.
Yeah.
I think for me life is very chaotic, and if you don't plan, you just more insecurities come because if you don't plan or if you're not aiming for something. I think as a person you need to be striving for something, and when you're not,
Right.
that's when what am I doing in my life? What's going on? And then all these things amount to this big bag of sad insecurities.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people don't have time to self-reflect like that, and so they're always busy doing something, but never anything that heads towards.
Yeah. You know what I've seen with some of my friends that have gone down the path that you guys have is dealing with disappointment. You know, some people devoted a lot of their time and things like that, and then maybe that big star didn't happen in the time that they thought it would happen, or this, and it destroyed them. It sent them down a spiral where you lead to self-destructive things that you can't even use the talent that you have or anything like that because you're just so down in the gutter. There's a few things that you guys deal with in that. See, someone that can just go get a job, there's a level of security in a job. Okay, right? There's a level of security in you're paid your employee for someone else and things like that, etc. But where you choose to chase what you want to do, okay, that security is not there. Whether it's an artist, whether it's a soccer player, a basketball player, whether an entrepreneur, you want to start a business, that certainty and security is not there. Okay, so I guess the question out of that is disappointment, because I'm sure we've all experienced disappointment at some point. How do you deal with it and make sure you bounce back to keep going?
Why? That's it. Why?
Why?
Why do you feel disappointed? Have you ultimately have you achieved your goal? If your goal was to release music and put something out, then you ultimately achieved what you wanted to get.
Yeah.
But those whys are important.
Right.
Instead of just just doing something. I think a lot of the time, a lot of people are disappointed because they didn't achieve the impact they want. But the impact they want doesn't necessarily come overnight. It's a long game.
Right.
And when you know what you're doing, then it's fine.
Right.
Ultimately you're going to get there. It's just a matter of time.
Right.
But these are what you have to take. These are the steps you need to take. You need to put music out. You need to take the time to self-reflect. You need to take the time to, work on you, work on the music. Because when you work on you, that ultimately it reflects. Everybody can see when you're moving in the right direction.
Right. Yeah.
I think why is a good point. You should always try and learn. If something feels disappointing, you should question why you felt disappointed and learn from it instead of just, that was disappointing, letting it go. And then I think another part to it for me is studying other people in your field. As soon as you find a field or something you want to enter, you should study everyone that did it before you. And what you learn from studying these people is that, man, these people, they had it hard. They failed and failed and failed and failed and failed. And then you realize that failure is not really a setback. It's more you need experience in things to develop what you want to develop.
Right.
And the best way to get experience is to fail miserably. Right. So you know what to do next time.
Yeah.
And you talking about the disappointment. I feel like he was saying, a lot of people want that stardom straight away, but back to this, what are you doing for and why? And like he said, nothing comes overnight. So
Right.
Not in any field, nothing comes overnight. So
100%.
if you're going to something and think the first time you do it, you're gonna then you should reassess what you're doing.
Yeah. And you know, and to be honest, when we're young, that's the maturity in our thinking, right? Right? You're gonna blow, right? Right? You know, I'm gonna blow and cars. You know, do you know what I mean? That's the immaturity in our thinking. Whereas 99% of the time, right? For majority, yes, there's 1-2 instances where you might hit a lucky, and yes, it goes in that direction. But 90% of the time is a long road, right? So when we talk about principles of success, patience is an absolute must.
Yeah.
Patience not only with yourself, because you have to be patient with yourself, right? To allow yourself to make that mistake, go through that disappointment, come back, keep going. Patience with yourself and patience with the industry, patience with everything, right? Is I think is one of the things.
And especially in our industry, there's I said there's lifestyle, you know what I mean? There's people that want to do it for that lifestyle. Yeah, I want 80 chains and 600 houses and stuff that's a certain lifestyle they want for it.
Yeah.
And then there's the duality, the other lifestyle where it's I'm gonna spend 800 hours on this one song to make it sound good. I feel you gotta pick the lifestyle you want. And one lifestyle is that overnight thing. And, that's where the disappointment comes from. And I think the other one is understanding, okay, to get to this, I need to do A, B, C, D. There's a list of things you have to do. And if you're not willing to look at that list and be okay, I'm gonna do it and face that list, it's just,
right.
That's where disappointment comes from. People rush a process,
right,
instead of being like you're saying, patience, okay, this is gonna take time, so instead of just
right. Yeah.
But I also think it's good to have that drive, whether people want whatever materialistic thing or whatever. I think it's good to have that drive. You need that to work.
Yeah.
As well. So I think it's important not to disregard that people have ambitions or want things out of the hard work they put in, if they choose to put in hard work.
Right. Yeah. No. I think what you guys both have said is motive is very, very, very key. You know, what is that drive? What is that motive? What is that desire? And that drive, that motive, that desire, even when you're in the gutter, even when you fall, even when you do have disappointment, that's gonna help you just bounce back up. If it's a true, genuine sort of desire. Whereas maybe if it's not so, maybe if you want the clout or you want, whatever.
Right.
And then you won't have that fight to get back up when things happen.
Right.
Okay. Now to move on, the other sort of principle is that I sort of, when I was listening to it, to your project, it's talking about hard work. Okay, you mentioned work so hard, what the F is a holiday, and working hard, and I think watching both of you come in and out of here and things like that, man, you guys put in hours, man.
Right. It's kind of gross.
You guys put in hours, man. That's like that. The work ethic is work ethic is a big one, right? It's a big one. If people that are mad successful, people that run businesses and things like that, they have their 8-hour work and then they come back and put in 3-4 more hours and they wake up early and and things like that. That work ethic, in whatever you do, that's just, it's a given. I don't care how I mean, talent is one thing, but that work ethic is a big one. There's one thing to put in time, but then it's another completely thing to put in strategic time. Okay, they're two different things. You can come here and sit around and just boom, 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 but strategic sort of, time, is there a way, in terms of the type of hours you guys put into this, how do you keep your focus? How do you make sure that, the time you do put in is a productive time? Is there anything like that you guys do? Or?
I think ultimately it's based off what you want to achieve. And so based off what you want to achieve, you have to put in the necessary steps to get there. And if you need to studio for X amount of time in order to get whatever track it is you need to get done, and you need to do that. And I think actualizing, like, realizing your priorities, because I know if I want to put this track out by June and I've put a time, then I have to be here every day. I have to get the music done. I have to get the visuals ready. And it's all things that need to be ready weeks prior before I can even say, okay, cool, we're ready to put it out in June. And it's knowing, it's just being organized enough, because I think, like, with art, a lot of, like, Maleezy said it best in the past before, with art, a lot of people, like, organization isn't a thing, because creative thought and in the box thinking just don't work together.
Right.
But to organize time to be creative,
Yeah.
and knowing that, like, during this period of time you can run wherever you want, that is that's powerful.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the creative process? Like how do you plan? So say you've got, you mentioned visuals, you mentioned, you have to do this, that, and that. What is that? Like, what is the creative process? Like, what is the planning behind, putting like a song together, and visuals, and things like that? Like,
I think for me, you learn, at least I learned planning. I want to come back to your question, but I'll answer this first. I think I learned planning from my own mistakes, because I'm the type of person where if I don't understand something, I'll just do it to figure it out. And I feel like with all the music I've released so far, that's what I've done. Each time I've released something, I put it out. Okay, I need to do this better. This is how you plan it. I start talking to people and get information about it. That's where planning came about for me.
check it, that's the recording.
Yeah.
But I think, what was the original question? I had a really nice point about it.
Time management, and how do you make sure the time you put in is productive?
Okay, the time plan is productive. That's the one.
Yeah.
I think what I was gonna say, the time you put in. He was talking about organization, which I think comes later for me. But I think what starts it for me is that drive. You gotta have that drive, and for me, it's that chip on my shoulder. I have that. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I remember every time someone's told me like what you're doing is going nowhere, and I use that instead of taking that in a destructive way. I use that as motivation. Like, I'm glad you don't think I can do what I can do, because I know I got a chip on my shoulder to not only prove other people wrong, but prove myself right too.
Right.
I feel like challenging yourself is another thing.
Yeah.
Like, every day when if I make a to-do list, I feel like I challenge myself. I give myself enough work so it's not easy, and not too much work that's overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think the core foundation to all this is you gotta understand yourself first, how you work. Back to the creative aspect of things. I think a creative person, like he was saying, it's very hard for them to have a structure. Because to me, the definition of creativity is to be outside of a box or outside that structure or outside of a framework. That's just how the creative mind works for me. So I think just getting older, it's like he's saying, it's understanding that, okay, I need to be creative, but instead of just being creative, I need to put that creativity in some sort of structure, or it's just going to be chaotic and not make sense.
Right. No, but I mean, yes, that's a really, really good point that you guys both made, is that to actually make forward movement, you need strategic organization and structure.
Yes.
I think fair enough. Creativity needs to creative, but it needs to be put into, like you said, into some sort of organized structure, strategic plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
To express that.
Yes.
And that sort of leads to my next bit. In the lyrics, I think "Hands Up" was the song. It says, you said I've been in the kitchen cooking, making new hits with this music, when no one is looking or something like that. And then you mentioned, like the ambition is to sell out shows, I believe, from something to Brooklyn, ACT to Brooklyn. What I wanted to sort of emphasize is the cooking part. So you're in the kitchen cooking, and when no one's looking.
Yes.
Okay, because when we talk about creativity, I don't know about with anything, when you're doing any sort of planning and things like that, I feel like you have to be to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And to do proper planning, to put strategic stuff in there, it's very much a you and you thing, right? It's a very much a strategic. That's how I feel. And I'm not a musician or anything, but in any other part, when I strategically want to think about what I want to do next, things like that, plans or etc. To-do lists, etc. I need to be in tune and just work by myself. Is that a similar process with either engineering or making music or things like that? Similar.
It's similar, but I think what helps me is I've been blessed enough to have been surrounded by enough other creative people doing similar things. So, like he says, you see, oh, he's doing this. Oh wow, it's actually like you see someone else excelling, so you want to excel too.
Right.
I think that's one big part of it. And then another one is just that. For me, it's that chip on the shoulder mentality that I have.
Yeah.
I feel like it's important to work hard too. I feel like it's hard to answer because I'm still in that stage of figuring it out. But I think, like I'm saying, responsibility is one thing that I've learned recently in life. I feel like as people, regardless of what you do, you need responsibility or you fall apart. I feel like what a lot of people call depression or sadness or whatever comes from people who have no goals or objectives. And regardless of whatever it is, I feel like you need some weight on your shoulder, especially as a man, to function. If you don't put any responsibility or burden yourself with anything, you actually fall apart. I think from putting that weight on your shoulder, you feel accomplished, even if you haven't accomplished something. It's the process. The process is what's important.
It's a psychological thing. Hey, I remember uni, one of my teachers or professors, before an exam, this is what he used to do, and I realized this is a tactic that he did. He would get us together, and he would say, "Yo, if you haven't been reading every week, if you haven't been keeping up your lectures, this exam is coming. Forget about it. You're gonna fail." Yo, forget about it. And what happens is your stress levels get through the roof. You're like, I haven't been reading. What the hell? I haven't. And you know what that does though?
Yeah.
You go in and you freaking put in time to study, because you feel like I gotta catch up. Oh man, I haven't been reading. You understand? But it's a psychological trick that he's put on us to make sure that we don't slack out or anything like that. Yeah. So like that's how you procrastination is a big thing that we have to overcome, and one of those things is putting the psychological tricks on yourself, Okay, last bit is when we talked about principles of success is we've talked about planning a lot, strategic planning and things like that. Now in one of your lyrics you said, I'm gonna stick to the plan. Okay. And that's a big thing. When you look at, when you read about successful people, you read about the faith that they had in their vision and their plan is unshakable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. But whereas most of us, our faith in our plans, in our vision and things like that, is lacking, and I don't know what I wouldn't. I'm not a great example of someone that has super focus in faith on this and that and that. But I guess when you're a creative, you kind of have to be like that, And so how do you keep the faith to your plans?
To understand.
Keep the faith to my plan.
Keep the faith in your plans and your vision that you have for yourself.
Why are you doing it? Understanding why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because nobody just does shit for no apparent reason.
Okay. And what about the execution? So there's one thing to say, you know, I want to be this, the execution of your plan. So, yeah.
I think we're all things you have to revise. Like you have to, like Malo's been doing, he's been putting stuff out, and with each release he does, he improves upon something, and that's ultimately like what we as artists aim to do. So like, it's being secure and realizing that, like, you know, okay, cool. Even though if it doesn't achieve what it needs to achieve, there's always the next revision and the revision after, and and sticking to the plan. And be like, okay, cool. If this project doesn't land, the next will, until you get to a point where it does.
I'm glad you brought up the word faith, because for me, I just studying is the thing that needs to be emphasized in my thing, and not just studying other people in your field doing the same thing, but studying words like faith. Like for me, I studied the word faith. I really sat down and I'm like, okay, I know this is important for what I need because I've studied these other successful people and they've come back to this word faith. So what does that mean? And then from my understanding, I've realized that faith is an action word. Being faithful to something is not like, it's not a thing you talk about. Like it's an action thing. So someone that's faithful to something is based on how they act. So if someone, like it's an action word. So being faithful to me, what it means doing instead of just saying, yep, I'm working hard. That's not work. That's not being faithful to hard work. Being faithful to hard work is those people you see up at 5 a.m. like, let's go. So understanding that, I feel like helped with getting that execution right. And like he's saying, putting out things, and even things that I don't put out, I'm sure calling a lot of people around me are annoying because I do things, or I try to shoot videos, or I do a lot of things that may look like they fail, but it's just because I'm trying to learn from it.
Right.
Get better.
Yeah.
I think.
I've seen this man execute multiple projects at a time. Just like, all right, it's the same project, but he's taking tracks in. He's putting tracks in, he's taking tracks out, and it's back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until he reaches a point where he's like, he's happy with what he has before he can put it out.
Right. I see. And the last thing, sorry, I lied before. The last thing is, you guys, I've seen just observing and things like that. You work together.
Yeah.
Okay. Teamwork. Right, and having a group, having a team, things like that. When you read like self-help books and things like that, it always talks about having a core group, or and things like that. Like where trying to do things as an individual yourself and things like that is one of the ways to run yourself to the ground. Things of that nature. Now, like working together, it's a concept that I don't see that often in our community, right? People really working together and to achieve a certain outcome, a certain goal. I feel like every time people get together, it leads. It's what do you call it? In whether it's like community groups or things like that, it never really leads to a successful outcome. It always breaks personality clashes, and it always breaks there. But me, I'm a low key preacher. Not really, but I study a lot. But one of the things,
definitely a preacher.
one of the things, like my study of the Islamic faith, okay, is they talk about God has 99 attributes, right? And they say human beings, right, when you're born into the world, each person is given different attributes of God. Okay, so they talk about mercy, they talk about beneficence, they talk about might, they talk about war. Like these are attributes of God, right? And different people are given at birth given different attributes, right? And so when we get together, okay, whatever your attributes are, whatever my attributes are, whatever your attributes are, and we work together towards a goal, it's like God. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? In terms of the power in that. Whereas if I was just me working by myself, I have less attributes. You know what I mean? And so what that always reminds me of is the power of sort of working collectively. And then too, just having a respect that, man, you and Nicole are not the same individuals, right? You don't need to be the same, right?
100%.
But you need to be sort of united in what you do. You understand? So that's not something that I see so much in our community, but I see it more and more with our young people. They're really getting together with less conflict and things like that. How do you guys keep the peace when you work together and things like that? How do you keep it not egos don't get in the way and
I think by understanding that we're both very honest people, and understanding that if I'm being critical of him or something he's made or anything, it's not from the standpoint that I'm trying to belittle or he's trying to belittle me, but it's more the standpoint that it's an opinion. There's been many times where I call, I don't like that, whatever it is, and he's like, but I do, and that's fine. I'm just giving my opinion to try and help him grow. I think understanding that you're trying to help the other person grow is a very important factor. But I don't think you can get there unless you work on yourself as an individual. And the power of teamwork that you just saying, I think is very important, because I think that's what kills procrastination. You need someone like, yo, you told me you get this done by now, it's not done. You need someone to have these moments with, these uncomfortable moments. You grow from that. So I think just understanding that honesty is coming from, there's no ego. Understanding that, like he's saying, when we get, because we're both doing this to multiple people, and I think the reason me and Nicole and a few other people work is that we understand that, like, there's no ego. We're trying to make the product or whatever creative outlet the best it can be, and though sometimes I may not agree with his opinion, he may not agree with my opinion, it's understanding that we're trying to make the best of whatever it is.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Anything to say about that, Nicole? No? Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty, well that's it. Well, thank you both for dialoguing, talking with a brother. So again, just to wrap up, principles of success. So I think we touched on working hard, and we touched on dealing with critique, both internal, external. We talked about teamwork and finding a group, working together. We talked about things like doubt, planning, organization, how to sort of I guess keep the faith in whatever your plan is, to your master plan to achieve success. So thank you both for the time.
Can I just bring up one more thing?
Yeah.
I just want to see where your brain goes with it. What do you feel about I have this concept I'm playing with in my head that like suffering is an essential point to succeeding. Just what is your take on that?
100%. Pain is necessary. It's a necessary component of success.
Yes.
Whether it's doing an all-nighter to get a project done, that's painful, right? Or whether you're a student and you do have to do an all-nighter to get that study, and so you know what you're doing for the exam the next year. Or the business owner that puts in hours. You know what I mean? Pain is absolutely a part and a necessary part of success, I think.
Same, that's hard. That's a hard one to accept, I think.
Yeah, it is a hard one to accept. And well, when you think about it, though, a lot of us, man, once we achieve a certain amount of success, we get to the point where we run into some sort of pain. we retreat,
Mm-hmm.
right? We do. Once something gets a little bit hard, we've there's example. I have examples in my own life where I've thought, oh damn, like it's kind of hard.
100%.
You know what? I think I might do something else. You understand?
Yeah.
And things like that. So yeah, but in most cases, when you can overcome that, endure the pain.
Yeah.
On the other side is success.
I wonder where that comes from. That ability to take in that pain and just be like, you know, like just because it's a ridiculous thing to have. It's hard to.
I think he mentioned a lot. Desire is a big part of it. Like, do you truly want it? And the universe is just gonna ask the question: how bad do you really want this? Okay, well,
are you sure?
You have to overcome this pain.
Yeah, sure.
I think also once you've done that, it almost becomes lustrous. Like you're like, at some point you're just kind of like, okay, until there's some form of friction, this isn't it, bro. Like people are either always going to like it or they're going to absolutely hate whatever it is you're doing.
That's what you want, man.
Yeah. And again, let me get in preacher mode. But the life of Jesus Christ. The life of Jesus Christ, in all honesty, is when you study it, the crucifixion. Take away all the spookiness. Just think about the symbolism.
The stories.
The crucifixion, right? Being evil spoken of. The crown of thorns around the head, right? Being humiliated and things like that. You know, whereas a few moments before people were celebrating, Hosanna, Hosanna, and then the people switch real quick. You know, the crucifixion, the crown, and the pain, and things like that. That is the road that all people that reach success, they take a similar road. You have to be able to endure a certain amount of crucifixion. You have to be able to endure a certain amount of evil people just talking shit about you, right? You have to be able to endure, you know, a crown of thorns, stress, you know, in your head and things like that. You have to be able to endure humiliation and things like that. And then on the other side of all that is the success. Do you understand? It's the
what
success.
people see.
Yeah, it's what people see. Yeah, it's the success. But it's a necessary thing. That's another way you could to look at that exegesis that you find in the scripture.
That
Anyway.
reminds me of a Lauren Hill verse. Lauren Hill?
Yeah.
She said, Jesus Christ is a superstar. They'll nail you and hail you no matter who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So there's my preaching for the night. All right, yeah. Thank you.
No, Vince.